Welcome back to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips alongside Phil Martelli. And right off the bat, we got to get right into it. Some pretty massive college basketball news that has definitely shook the college hoops world right away. Just happening.
Yeah, Tony Bennett's press conference, I did not get a chance to see it, but people have called throughout the night and asked for opinions, including your father, by the way. Uh, Here's what I will say. Tony Bennett is, in a cliche, a gentleman and a scholar. Hell of a basketball coach, national championship coach, and then to win the national championship having lost a 16-1 game the year before, just absolutely phenomenal. Never flustered, always, always, always a gentleman. And you can't say that about all coaches now, but a gentleman and a scholar. And as this kind of evolves, the story, I just have one point to make. I hope that it doesn't boil down to dissatisfaction with the landscape of college basketball. I know how it looks. I know what you might hear. Let's see how this plays out. And first and foremost, pray that it's not a health issue for Tony or his family. And let's thank him for what he did for the game, the profession, for the University of Virginia, and be appreciative for what he did, and hope that in the future he can stay engaged with our game, stay engaged with our profession. We need him.
I think one of the greatest things that he can really hang his hat on is that ultimate tale of redemption, right? You lose a 16-1 game and then you come back and say, you know what? This is the kind of resolve this program has to turn around and win a title. I think that's all you really need to say about your legacy and your program at the end of the day.
Well, at the end of the day, really, national champ. Okay. Any other questions out there?
Yeah.
We have nothing else.
That's pretty much nail on the head right there. And obviously, pretty awesome to see, as you were mentioning, we talked about it a little bit earlier this week, a lot of programs doing some really cool things as they ramp things up heading into the college hoop season.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. And if I could take just a bit of our time here, before we get to our awesome guest. Right now, there are charity exhibition games going on. Applaud your coaches, applaud your universities, applaud your teams, because they are playing games and they're creating funds for Coaches versus Cancer, mental health, something in your area where this game can help someone else. That's a spectacular thing. And yes, they're played under conditions that you're used to. 40-minute game. But as you watch the results, just relax for a second. And if you have a favorite baseball team, tell me how they did last March in the Grapefruit League. You don't remember, and it really doesn't have much impact. So these are terrific because you're giving your players a chance to play someone else. You're doing it to play someone for a greater cause. And then the other sliver of this, though, Jared, is this. There are also secret scrimmages going on where the NCAA allows you to play someone else, bang heads with someone else. And now the results get leaked. The box score gets leaked. That used to be against the rules. Now they've eased up a little bit. But for the fan bases that get too high or too low on losing a secret scrimmage or winning a secret scrimmage, answer these questions for yourself. How was it refereed? Who didn't play due to minor injury? Maybe somebody was late and they held him out of a scrimmage. They would play during the season, but not now. The refereeing, the injuries. What was the format? I'm going to raise my hand. At Michigan last year, without Juwan Howard, we went to Marquette. And the score came out. It was 115 to 112. And the emails poured in. Oh, we have a team that's not going to play defense. Well, did you know that we played 60 minutes that day? So relax, relax, relax. It's a great opportunity for the players to play someone they won't see during the season, but to play a style. Did they play away from home? And I get nervous, and I'm going to give you a little tidbit here. I get nervous when teams and fan bases get too high or too low over a secret scrimmage. 2003, 2004, ancient history, I know, but we had the best team in America. We beat Gonzaga on a Friday night in Madison Square Garden in a coaches versus cancer game. Legit game, opening game. But because that was a late invitation, we had a scrimmage scheduled for that Monday versus, and I'm not sure if they were Philly Textile, Philly U, Jefferson. I'm not sure what they were called, but they were coached by the Hall of Famer, Herb McGee. We played them on a Monday night. It was supposed to be a secret scrimmage. There were a couple hundred people because I never believed in closing the doors for a practice or a scrimmage. They took us to the last play of the game in that scrimmage with Jameer Nelson, with Delonte West, with Dwayne Jones, with Pat Carroll. A Division II team took us to the wall. And after that, it worked out pretty well 26 straight times after that. But everybody relax, temper yourselves with scrimmages and charity exhibition games.
Quick one. You had to be sweating after that Monday night scrimmage. I know that you, no, not worried about it.
No, because I always had a different view of the scrimmage in that I changed rotations up. I didn't sub like I would. I didn't sub like I did for the Gonzaga game. I actually had in my brain some guys who hadn't played as much against Gonzaga. I wanted them to get more time. I wanted to process it and say, well, what if this guy gets in foul trouble? I used to sub in scrimmages every 4 minutes. I would put a different group in.
Like a men's
and I would start a different group because I never wanted the players to say, well, he's already made a decision on rotation and he hasn't even talked to us yet. I didn't sweat. But I will say this. I guarantee you, Herb McGee put it on his career record. He marked it as a win so that when he called Naismith to say, am I eligible? He probably said, I have 1,201 wins and not just 1,200 because I beat St. Joe's in a scrimmage.
That's incredible. Oh man, I mean, if just tape of that scrimmage would have been, I bet, a blast. But we do want to get rolling here. We want to invite our guest on really quickly. You do want to get into some updates with the Martelli Minute.
The Martelli Minute, which we're going to present. And after reviewing last week's show, and I gave you 5, I'm going to give you 3, but we have really exciting news. Our friends at Status Solutions, a fabulous company out of Ohio, has come on board. They're going to sponsor the Martelli Minute. And you'll find out more as we go through our podcast episodes, and I'll tell you more about Status Solutions. But they're doing really special things to protect our young people in schools of all level. Status Solutions, thanks for joining us. And anybody else wants to come on, we got a lot of segments. But the Martelli Minutes, every day when you awake, ask yourself, am I willing to do hard things to win? The second one for this week, change is up to you. If you desire to alter any aspect of your life, then start the process now. And then the last one, and this one can be evergreen. Understand that everyone is dealing with something. So be kind. It makes a difference. Martelli Minute, sponsored by Status Solutions. We appreciate them and are really excited to go forward on our podcast journey with them, Jared.
You know, you mentioned, this podcast thing. I'm not so sure. I never thought I'd be doing something like this. You're kind of a natural. You know, that ad read was pretty solid. I mean, it's only going to get better from here. I'm just, I don't want to.
You're saying I have a face for podcast? So if somebody can't see me, it's all right.
I'll come back and let you know about the numbers for listening versus watching, and then I'll get back to you on whether you got a face for podcasting.
All right, let's get to this guest, man.
We got it. We got
a superstar today.
You want to introduce him?
No, you got it.
Here he is, Dr. George Steinhoff, the school superintendent for Penn-Delco. George, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jared. Thank you. Am I coming through loud and clear?
You are loud and clear.
Absolutely.
It's almost like running a staff meeting, George.
Well, I was chuckling listening to your intro because anyone who has ever seen me hold a basketball would just be shocked to think that I'm on a podcast with Phil Martelli. The last thing, I would be the last guy you would want on your team with a basketball in my hand, Phil, that's for sure. But thank you for having me.
But you're being humble because you and I both know that cross-country team that you ran with is now in the Hall of Fame in New Jersey.
Oh,
you were a key component of
as of last week, that's correct. The 1984 Paul Six cross-country team, some incredible guys, real brotherhood. And a lot of life lessons that were learned from sports, and I know you touch on those in your podcast and in your work, and some of the messages that you gave our staff when you were so kind to visit on our back to school this year.
Thank you, George. I think when someone hears the title superintendent, their interest has to be piqued to say, "Tell us your journey. How did you end up in a superintendent's office?"
Sure. Well, traditionally, I'd say 9 out of 10 of us come up through the ranks as an educator. Sometimes the kids will ask me that, how do you get to be a superintendent? And by far, most of us started as teachers, then likely became a building administrator, and then moved into central office, and then typically move into the superintendency. For me, it was a little different. It was a little bit more fast-tracked. I was a building elementary principal and went from there into the superintendency way back in 2008, and I've been with Penn-Delco since that time. I didn't have that kind of growth curve in the central office that many have, but I was able to be successful out of the gate by having really good, smart people around me that I give a lot of credit to, and supporting them and leading them and making sure that we stayed focused on our mission. But it's interesting, when people talk about the superintendency, certainly it's an important position in a school district. But I have found that the most successful superintendents are the ones that kind of practice humble servant leadership. They're the ones that last. They're the ones that oversee really successful school districts and keep the focus on the staff and the students. And that's what I try to do here.
And that was going to lead to this. I'm going to flip around a little bit our script here, because I wanted to ask you that with all the challenges that you're facing in education, how do you personally, because I saw you up close and personal, how do you personally take on those challenges and know that every day, George, that you're making a difference with your students and with your staff? What's that personal mantra that gets you through each of these days?
Yeah, interesting. Personal, for me, I would say trust others in this district. That would be my piece in terms of a personal mantra. My goal has always been, by far, to make sure that our focus is first and foremost on our students, that we're not spending a whole lot of time talking about adult issues, that we're not getting off topic. But again, always asking that question, what is best for students? And as a single person, one individual out of hundreds in the district, I have a role to play, and it's an important role, but I try to remind myself that there's hundreds of other people around me who are in the game for the same reason. And I need to learn to trust them and trust their expertise and trust their passion and their commitment, and let them do their job. I can lead the way, I can set strategy, I can help with execution, I can try to remove barriers. But ultimately, it's that teacher in the classroom, it's that coach on the field, it's our custodians, our bus drivers, all the individuals that are making a difference in the lives of kids. And I feel like, I can expand my role by removing obstacles. And if I remove the obstacles for as many people as possible, we're making a bigger difference for a larger number of students.
The activities, the sports, the school play, the band, how do they create a positive environment in all of your schools? Not just your high schools, but in all of your schools. The education outside the classroom is the way I would describe it, George. How's that creating a positive environment in Penn-Delco?
Oh man, I'm glad you asked the question, because it's just so critical. And I think in general, society is starting to recognize that there's so much more to a positive school experience than a test score. I use that line a lot. A student is more than a test score, because our focus in Penn-Delco really is not on making sure that we have the highest standardized test scores in the land. That's just not what we care about. We care about the things that will get kids ready for life. And just like ourselves, our students will remember the things that they did, the connections that they made with teams, with clubs, with activities. So that's a big part of our school district mission, actually. It's a third part. We actually talk about enabling all students to, one of the things is excel in the pursuit of an area of talent or interest. So we want kids to be able to say, this is what I'm good at, or this is my thing, or this is what I want to be great at, because every one of our kids should be able to answer that question. So we value the arts extremely here. That's a strong component in Penn-Delco. The Sun Valley musical last spring received Best Cappies musical in Southeastern PA. And we were so proud of them for that. And I watched these kids start in elementary and perform through middle school. And then here they were as seniors last year, putting together an exceptional show that was, to me, Broadway level performances. Athletics, we want kids to be able to achieve. We're in a really tough conference in the Chestmont League, and Sun Valley High School here is a small school and a very big conference. But we still enable kids to achieve at individual levels. Last year they had the #1 girls volleyball player in Delaware County in Little Old Sun Valley High School. So we put a lot of emphasis on the opportunities for kids to achieve in athletics, for the kids to achieve in the arts, and then for kids to achieve in service activities, things like environmental club. We want to make sure that there's something there for every kid. And I think that area in terms of activities is an area we're going to try to focus a little bit more on in the next couple of years.
I was going to mention, George, I just think one thing that we really kind of take for granted is the relationships that can be built too in some of those extracurriculars, in some of those opportunities I think the kids see. I mean, they really have, I'm a Chestmont kid myself, and growing up playing hoops, playing rugby. I mean, so many of my friendships to this day are built, and so many relationships, so many networking opportunities. Every aspect of my life has been kind of nurtured by the people I met through the years, whether it was just high school basketball or high school rugby, or maybe it was just pickup basketball later in life, that I've made some of my closest friends and have developed some great relationships personally and professionally. I feel like that's such a vital thing. Is that something maybe you guys stress as well, is that learning outside of the classroom can build lifelong friendships, lifelong relationships for your students that are going to be so valuable for them moving forward?
Well, absolutely. You talk about, lifelong lessons, life ready. We changed our motto from excellence in education to ready for life. And we try to focus on a portrait of a graduate here. So any student who leaves Penn-Delco, we want them to be skilled, particularly in 5 areas, right? Communication, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity. And that 5th C for us is character, right? And we believe that participation in sports with good coaches, with good colleagues, where you're really, setting goals and you're trying to achieve them and you're trying to learn new skills, that is the way that we believe you build character, right? You experience failure in sports and you learn how to overcome it, and you learn how to be better next time. And they're like life lessons that we pick up along the way. So for sure, we really recognize that life outside of school and the things that you do, and connection, that's the other piece I'll mention, getting kids out of the bedroom and sitting on their cell phones and just doing more things, whether that's going to the homecoming parade. Our student section is phenomenal. And it's great to see that connection. They're outside, they're sharing joy, they're having fun with one another. They're the skills and the memories that kids are going to take with them and not forget.
George, I've been absolutely blown away. I've had an opportunity to get around to a couple different intermediate units. I've been able to get around to a couple different school districts. And the way that superintendents talk about each other, not in a negative way, but you all refer to each other as your friend, as their friend. I think the same in coaching. Like, you go behind that as the head coach, you close the door. You're the head coach of Penn-Delco. When you close the door, the assistant superintendent is great and the principals in your school are great, but they don't have the same sense, that same angst that another superintendent has. Yeah. So two kind of questions in one. Those friendships are real from what I've seen. And how do those friendships help all of you navigate today's educational environment? You're facing challenges, but there has to be tremendous joy in what you do every single day. How do your fellow superintendents lift you, and how do you lift them?
Yeah, great question. Well, you're 100% correct. I think there's a fraternity in which we have just a great deal of respect for each other, because we know that at some point in time, each of us are going to face, some real lows that we got to lead through. And we're also going to enjoy some real highs. You mentioned that. I was listening to you at the start of the podcast. You were talking about don't get too high, don't get too low. And I think we recognize in this job as superintendents, we have that roller coaster effect. It just kind of comes with the territory. And when things are low, you really do feel like you're on an island. You're there by yourself. I kind of remind myself, there's a great line in Bug's Life where they said Hopper came to the princess, I think Aunt, and said something like, first rule of leadership, everything's your fault. And it's a line that I have never forgotten from that Disney show. And I think we recognize that with our colleagues, if something goes wrong, even if it wasn't their fault, they're going to be responsible for it. So there's kind of a respect for one another, I believe, and a recognition that, it's a 24/7 job. And if we do it well, if you're a humble public servant, it can be very personally rewarding, because you get to see kids succeed. You get to see things really do exceptional work in the classrooms, and makes you feel good about going to work every single day. But that's a big piece. I think the fraternity of it is just recognizing that each of us at some point in time, you're not going to be a superhero. You're going to mess up, and it's tough dealing with those moments, but it's how can you be with one another to pick yourself up and move on and live for another day.
So, George, I can't thank you enough for helping us and educating us and lifting us. But I have to ask you this question. We're going to make this a big part of every guest segment here on Make a Difference. Who's the person, George, who's made a difference in your life? Professionally, personally, who is your difference maker, just like you're making a difference all over Delaware County and all over education in the state of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I think an early, not so much mentor for me, but a guy I looked up to really in my formative years was my high school coach, Mike Lavin, who at St. Joe's right now. He made a difference in my life, and a difference of a lot of lives that he touched as a coach. He just taught us so many lessons in life about how to set goals, how to overcome adversity, how to maintain perspective, how to be a great teammate. He just was a wonderful coach, and I think there's a lot of lessons that he taught me as early as 15 years of age that I'm still using here at 57. So, hats off to the coaches out there, hats off to the teachers out there. They probably don't recognize the impact they have and how much they really do make a difference in the service of others.
George, thank you. You made this just a great segment. I want to go back on this idea. George is the superintendent of Penn-Delco, and everybody in Delaware County knows him that way, but I see him as the head coach. And to have him be our first venture into the non-athletic world, that's not real, because that's a difference maker. George, thank you. Have a great weekend, and much, much, much support for all that you're doing in Penn-Delco. Please know that I'm here for you.
Well, thank you, Phil. We appreciated you coming out to talk to our staff earlier in the year. We've got a great team here, and anytime you want me on to talk about Penn-Delco or education, I'm always happy to join you. So keep up the great work.
Thank you very much.
George, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Just an awesome chat. And it's so cool. I mean, you're delving into this world so much more, and you're getting the opportunity to see this. But for me, to kind of learn, I feel like I'm learning so much through all this, which has been a lot of fun. I mean,
one of the things is the front lines, right? The front lines, and not like sitting back and critiquing what. No, that's a frontline guy. And we should mention Bernadette Riley was going to be with us. And if district business came up, that's what they go through. Like I will say this. There is one question that I need when we get our next superintendent on, which is
we just had one.
In a little bit, it's coming. It's coming. Right? Don't you wonder about this? What time does he make that decision on school or no school or 2-hour opening when they have bad weather?
That's a tough one.
No one knows.
He's got.
Everybody guesses.
It's the most power he really. I mean, as far as the kids are concerned, right? I mean, in that moment, they're like, "Please, are we gonna get a snow day?" Right?
What time do you make that decision?
Oh, it's you have to be up all night, right?
That's what I think.
I mean,
we'll find out.
That is. Well, we're heading toward the winter. It's getting cooler and cooler out. We're gonna find out. Well, with that though,
I know you're trying to find out where I've been.
That's exactly where I was headed. I was gonna say, really, what we're looking at next is just where in the world is Phil Martelli? What have you been up to the last week? I know it's been some fun stuff. There's one thing in particular I'm really excited to hear about.
I had a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to go to Darren Daulton's foundation, and I was a guest bartender. I will admit, I didn't pour any drinks, and I didn't open any beers, or I guess now they're drinking something out of a can that's a combination vodka and tonic water. I didn't do any of that. I did a lot of talking.
Okay.
A lot of commiserating.
So you made no drinks.
I made no drinks. But Larry Boa was there. Jim Eisenreich was there. Milt Thompson was there. Ricky Botalica was there. And Ed Wade was there. And making life better for families that are facing tumors and brain cancer. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal opportunity. And then Monday morning, crack of dawn, I drove up to Lebanon, PA, and due to Dean Bozeman and Mariah Rackley, I was able to present to the Cornwall Lebanon School District. That night I came back, and think about this. Think about a kid from Philadelphia introduced at a dinner Monday night for Fred's Footsteps. Fred DeBona, the original guy at Independence Blue Cross, at his golf outing in his memory. I was introduced by Dick Vermeil.
That's pretty awesome.
That was pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
And I was non-Philadelphia that night, so I didn't ask him about Cover 2, or I didn't ask him about Nick Sirianni's episodes the day before.
Why aren't they pulling the left tackle out more? Nothing like that.
I wouldn't even know which one was the left tackle. Tuesday, I had a great visit here with Michael Bradley, who is humbly preparing a piece on Mainline Today in that magazine. I was on the A10. It's let me get it right. A10 Vault. It's a podcast with Nathan Mock. Nathan is in Saipan, Japan, and he's doing the podcast at 1 o'clock in the morning. He's calling me here, his time, 1 o'clock, and doing that. And then something really cool. Parents and grandparents, if you have a young grandson or a granddaughter involved in Bananas Baseball, they play baseball, fall baseball, based off the Savannah Bananas, like their way of you get a point for each inning. I was able to go to that game on Tuesday night, standing on a fence, leaning on a fence. Who's standing next to me? Nick Nurse. So that's the basketball world. That's the world that we all live in here. Wednesday, I had a chance to have breakfast with Rob Paulson, who is the president and CEO of National Association of Water Companies. We're going to be doing some business with the water companies here shortly.
Really?
Not podcast business, but other business. Make a difference with them. Radford baseball on Wednesday night, featuring two of your cousins.
Okay.
Jackson Kehoe and Tyler Kehoe and Coach Alex Guerrera invited me in by Zoom to share with their team. Thursday, Tallulah, authentic Italian food. Visit their production, walk their plant, and then a Drexel basketball practice. Really appreciate Maisha Kelly and Zach Spiker allowing me to come watch practice. And then we got to Friday. And Friday was...
I just, sorry, really quick, I want to cut you off. That was National Pasta Day, right?
That was National Pasta Day, and I was at Tallulah, authentic Italian food.
Well, but you got to bring in a Martelli on National Pasta Day, right?
Well, I guess they thought that. And then on a Friday, I had a chance to talk with a brilliant young writer, Andrew Kahn. He writes for MI, so Michigan Live, covers football and basketball. And he was catching up on where the coaches were from last year's staff. And a wonderful, wonderful phone call with Robbie Hummel, who is sneaking up there as one of the leading broadcasters of college basketball. I had a chance to pick his brain about what that looks like. What does it look like to broadcast college basketball? How do you prepare? And all of that, every single opportunity, I just wanted to make a difference. And they made a difference to me. So thank you to everybody. And some days when they ask, what do you do when you retire? There's a sampling.
You tell them you don't, is the real answer.
I hope not.
I want to get back to the guest bartending, celebrity bartending, for your sake. I mean, you made no drinks. You didn't shake a single martini, nothing. You just back there talking, because that sounds like, kind of sounds like you were dead weight behind the bar. If I'm being honest.
Very likely I was dead weight. I did entertain.
That's half the battle. That's half the job.
I did some pictures. But I will say this. The amount of money that it cost for a Coors Light blew me away. I stood next to a real bartender, and I was, how could this possibly... No, you have to understand this. The people paid $100 to get in.
Okay.
And then they paid for their food and they paid for their drinks.
It's all for a good cause. I mean,
no. I'm not fighting the cause.
When was the last time you cracked open a Coors Light? Is I guess the bigger question.
It has been a very, very long time.
I think that's, there's this thing called inflation and everything. Yeah. It might have been 50 cents back when you had one, but
probably
that's not the case anymore.
I think it was a big deal. I think it was $1.25 when the St. Pauli girl came out. The non-domestic beers came out. International, whatever they were called. I have no idea.
You're telling me when they first introduced non-domestic beers?
Non-domestic, yeah. $1.25.
Oh, brother. There's a bit of an age gap here.
Yeah, I would think that.
Well,
wow, what an episode.
With that, for that week though, I mean, I'd love to hear where you're headed next then. What is where are you making a difference next?
I have a terrific opportunity at the end of the week. I leave Thursday night, go to Minnesota, 600 high school coaches Friday morning at the Minnesota Basketball Coaches Association Clinic. I'm going to speak Friday morning, and interestingly enough, the topic is not basketball skills or practice or anything. It's make a difference. I'm going to talk to them about, yes, coach is a title. coach is a title, but difference maker is the responsibility. So I'm going to have that opportunity on Friday morning, and then I'll fly back, and Friday night to kick off Widener, my alma mater, their homecoming weekend. They have a Hall of Fame induction, and I will be the final speaker at their Hall of Fame induction just to thank everybody for their interest in Widener, to congratulate the Hall of Fame inductees, and to ask that everybody get involved and stay involved with Widener, which is in the activities. Again, we go back to George. Sports at Widener, the thing that set it apart for me was it was okay to pursue championships, and in some cases, national championships. So I'm excited about that being my Friday night.
Busy man. Busy man. I mean, that's exciting. I'm excited for you to keep traveling. I mean, it feels like you're kind of all over the world at this point these days. We had a great guest today, and I do want to let people know what next week looks like. You're really excited about this one.
I am really excited.
Well, there's not going to be guests you won't be excited about, given the fact that you are handpicking them, and we're talking to interesting people week in and week out from all different fields. But do you want to introduce next week's guest?
Well, in the state that we're in the country, with all that's coming up November 5th, I reached out to the number one in my time at St. Joseph's, the number one professor, Dr. Randall Miller. And he's a political scientist. He's been featured on MSNBC. He's been featured all over at election time on all of the Philadelphia TV networks. Brilliant. He's written more books than you've read in the last year. I'll put it to you that way.
I guarantee you that.
Yeah,
I barely know how to read. So.
No, don't say that. But Dr. Randall Miller is going to join us. And again, this is not going to be who to vote for or why. This is going to be what fascinates all of us. How do they get these signages out there? How about the speechwriters? How do they get these candidates? How do they promote the candidate? How do they decide travel? How do they travel? What's the coordination with Secret Service? So it's going to be the political landscape, and we're not shilling for any one candidate. So we don't have to offer equal time to the other side, so to speak. But Dr. Randall Miller, I didn't hit send fast enough for him to reply saying he can't wait to be. And we are on a different day.
That is right. We are switching things up a little bit. That'll be Wednesday at 3:30. And that show, of course, will be on Spotify and all platforms afterward. We're moving to Wednesdays.
We
Fridays
have to be
are a lot
careful
of fun,
about
but
dead being set on.
That's a good point.
On Wednesday, because hopefully I'll have some TV opportunities, and we may move around. But
things will be moving around, but we can almost assuredly guarantee that there will be a show every week. That's pretty much where
definitely
we're at.
a show every week, because
what day is going to be a fun surprise
with Dr. Miller next week, and we could put it out there, and then let's hide it. No, we gotta. Well, let's put it this way. We'll give you a little work to do. We're going to have back-to-back weeks of basketball coaches, and I'll only leave it this way. Both of them are Italian Americans. The coaches that are coming on at the end of October and the beginning of November to start the seasons are both Italian Americans. You can figure it out from there.
That's easy. Representative of all ends of the college basketball spectrum as well.
Male and female.
Yeah, that pretty much gives it away. But well, very excited, of course, for Wednesday and the following few weeks we have coming up. We have some big guests coming up, and then just a few other points of business as we kind of get rolling and wrap things up here. I do want to, of course, plug pnjmakeadifference.com. If you want to operate in any capacity with making a difference, head to that website, tell your story, and there's really so much more to come with that and what you're hoping to do. It's really going to be a sweet opportunity for anyone looking to make a difference, whether it's in schools, in businesses, in the education realm, in the political realm. We're just hoping to kind of affect change and make a difference in any really
one
way
person
possible.
at a time.
One person
one
at
organization,
a time.
one thought.
And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't, of course, plug our social media as well. Make a Difference Pod on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok's really doing well.
That.
Yeah, you got to get on the TikTok. You don't have to, but
I probably won't.
He's also Phil_Martelli on Instagram. On Twitter, we are just
Martelli Minute.
Make a Diff Pod. Yeah, you'll see the Martelli Minute every single day on Instagram as well. That should be really just about all you need to know. If you've been liking the show, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. Why don't you just give us a like on our videos as well? That'd be fantastic. And leave a comment if you have any thoughts. I dropped the suggestion box in there. Some good guest ideas already. I'll share them with you. I'm not putting them on the air because we got to make sure we can get these people. But some good guest ideas came through in the suggestion box. And also, if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, feel free to give us a 5-star rating. That always helps with the old audience and everything like that. I mean, listen, I'm not going to tell you to give us a 5-star rating. If you don't like the show, I mean, tell us how you feel, really. But it'd be nice. It'd be nice if they gave us a 5-star rating. I'll say that.
Thank you. If that's what's important, then thank them.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of
See you
Make a
Wednesday.
Difference. Wednesday, we got a big one. Definitely want to be chiming in for that one.